Good evening, everyone. It is March 7th, 2023. You can see that we are still in the process of that waterfall stage, coming off of that short squeeze off of that pivot area. You can see that was the original demand zone, came into this pivot area in general. This has been a nice pivot since about June or July of last year. It's almost a full 12 months now. I think it's about 9 months. And we have this beautiful squeeze distributed at the highs, right at this 59.50 area, right in our little zones here. And then we had a beautiful sell-off today. Now, I want to go into a little bit more detail here about that sell-off, and we are going to open up this chart over here. I know it's a little bit ugly. Let's get rid of a few things. Let's get rid of the drawings. And I want you to pay attention just to purple is our monthly VWAP, and this line over here, this orangey looking line, this red-orange looking line, that's our first standard deviation of VWAP on the month. And you can see what we had here was a shift in the monthly point of control, this thick blue line. It shifted up from 55-ish. It shifted up from this 55 number to right above the first standard deviation of monthly VWAP. And right as we got up there, that's when we had our sell-off, and that's when I started to call for a move into monthly VWAP, which we eventually got down at 4,002, and then I was looking to get long after the gap close. So let's go into a bit more detail there. Let's go into what we had overall. Again, today we had Powell on, and this kind of goes into that distribution a bit more on a lower time frame on a 4-hour chart. You can see we tagged that 83 level almost to the tick. Kind of churn around here, then that is again where we had that shift in the monthly point of control and then the sell-off back into our pivot zone on the week. Again, let's go into this in a little bit more detail. So what I had said in the morning coming into the day, and perhaps I should just pull this up on Twitter. We can just look at the Twitter screenshot here. What I had said on the day was I was saying buyers will want to get this thing over 4060s quickly. If we otherwise we're going to have a monthly point of control shift off of the lows. So what I was implying is that if they don't start moving it up, we're going to get that distributive point of control shifting, and that's going to allow for that move into monthly VWAP. So they were unable to get it to move during A period. I think A period was an amazing, riveting 6-point range. Powell talked and we sold off. And eventually we got into that monthly VWAP. And then what I was looking for was for us to finally close that gap at 39.95, which is what we had later in the day. And then after that, to me, we hadn't really broken any major structure. I was mentioning that I was kind of looking for the gap, for the low of the day to either be the gap close 85s or 75, somewhere between that 75 to 95 area. I was looking for a low of the day. And I did take 85s long. I got essentially a break-even trade. Quite frustrating to have not a winning trade and instead a stop out right at the low of the day, but whatever. So we did come into this 80 area and find a low of the day. And interestingly, as we finished the session, we did have a point of control shift on the weekly time frame. So if we pull up a chart like this, excuse all the drawings and everything, let's hide all that. This pink guy, or here's the weekly VWAP right here at 34-ish, and here's the point of control shifting down towards 90. So what we've done here is we've accumulated a lot of crap on the week, mostly through short covering. We'll see if there's enough to get us back up to weekly VWAP, which is kind of the thesis I'll be running with for tomorrow's plans. So let's go ahead and hide the indicators now. Just look at the drawings. Here we go. What am I looking for? Well, in general, and actually I want to go back to this chart for a second. In general, I've got my pivot at 39.75 still. We haven't actually broken any major structure. All we really did was we filled in that gap at 39.95. We came back to last week's point of control. We just tagged monthly VWAP. If anything, this has been constructive for buyers to be able to fill in these what could you call it? We could call it poor structure. They're filling in this poor structure. Now, what I really want to see is buyers stepping in this pivot area, this 63 to 85 area, really this 75-ish number. If they're able to hold around the 70s, I think we should be able to get back up into the 40, 50s, back up towards that monthly point of control, back up towards whatever, around this distributive position. I think we should be able to get back up here. Yeah, sure, we might have a bit of selling, but eventually I think you would get to higher prices. So as of now, I'm not really too concerned about where buyers are at. So again, let's go back to what I'm looking at for tomorrow, keeping in mind that I don't think buyers are in a lot of trouble. So what am I looking for? Well, I want to now take this weekly pocket 89.5, the RTH weekly pocket. I want to take it long for a move back into weekly VWAP, which is this pink number here, 40.34.5. And I'm assuming by the time we get up to there, we should that weekly VWAP should have came down. So I will be looking for shorts around yearly VWAP around this level. I think it's also the prior week's value area high, the 91%, or otherwise put the standard deviation 1.75 from last week's value area. It's also this yearly VWAP. It's also just been a pretty killer level in general. So I will be looking for a short there. Now, after we get a tag weekly VWAP, I will be looking to also short 20s or 15s. I'm yet to decide specifically on a number there. Up above, I am interested in getting short at that where we had weekly point of control, where we did do a lot of volume at 52.75. Above there, I'm probably not interested in playing. So I'm mostly going to be looking to this area for the short side, this area to the long side. I am interested in getting long still at 48s and 32s, but this will be after a run of that overnight low, which I think is, yeah, down here around 39.25. Because really, I think if we lose this 48 bid, kind of where we had found the monthly low at 47.5, and where we had kind of churned around before this huge bid, I think if we lose this major demand zone, if you want to call it, we're likely to lose the lows, and we're going to come into this 39.18 number that I've been talking about for weeks. So that's how I'm looking at this thing. I'm not too concerned about buyers, honestly. I think, yeah, sure, you might have a bit of a sluggish open. You might have some trouble, waking up the buyers tomorrow morning. We do have news. We do have ADP at 8:15. We do have Powell and Jolts at 10 o'clock. We do have the 10-year. We do have the beige book. So what I'm going to be looking for, I'm probably only going to be trading a period. That is provided that it calms down a little bit. And then I'll probably be hands off for the rest of the day. Powell is likely to move the market around a lot again, and the volume will likely be too high and too volatile for my sort of trading. So that's what I'm looking for. Hope that makes sense. I'll likely revise a lot of these numbers tomorrow pre-market, and that's all I have for you guys today. Have a good night and trade safe.